communicable diseases have taken over suddenly. Diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, cancer, and even mental illnesses. And at the same time, we are also getting dengue, malaria, swine flu, all types of viruses. New viruses every year are being discovered. So I think it is still a challenge that we need to recognize that there is so much we can do, and we need to see as doctors, our wish list is that we need the disease number to go down, and we need to invest into preventive health. Now we are all tertiary care physicians, but we can all do healthcare messages, and we need to recognize that as doctors. One of our wish lists is that we wish that the community actively participates with us to ensure that they are able to give better quality of life. I get a lot of diabetics who cannot afford insulin. And I have a lot of patients who are rich. They are they always show off. Yesterday one patient of mine told me that he got a new Jaguar. He's a type 1 diabetic. I said, I don't want to see your Jaguar, but I want you to make a commitment to me that you will sponsor one type 1 child who can't afford insulin for life. And you will provide that insulin directly to that end user's life. Do that. I wish most of our doctors are able to find such sponsors who are patients, who are well off, and who are having the same disease, and they adopt one more individual just like them so that they can make a change in that other person's life. Because it will make a change. And I am every day getting a patient, and I am telling you, I am very proud to say that our patients are so good that they not only adopt one. This man who bought a Jaguar, he said, I am ashamed that I bought such a costly car. I will sponsor 100 type 1 patients for life. So these type of commitments Indian citizens feel. The one thing I learned in the US is the ability to give. They donate. They do charity. In India, we are misers. We save energy. We save money. We don't want to spend. And that is why we get all these non-communicable diseases. Whether it is mental health and stress and anxiety, Brahma was always anxious, whether I'll turn up, not turn up, turn up, not turn up. Anxiety, Okay. Then, of course, we have all these non-communicable diseases like hypertension, diabetes, stroke, heart disease. Everything is coming up so quick and fast. And we need to make a change. And the only way we can make a change is that each one of us decides. I am sure each one of us has some family member who has some disease. Pick up that disease and pick up one poor individual who is working with you maybe, and adopt that individual and sponsor his treatment free. It will make a huge impact on overall our health. And if our health indicators improve, our wealth indicators will automatically improve. And I think doctors are one of the good vehicles for preventive care messages. And I think we need to recognize that. We are, of course, doctors for adults. I am not doctor for children. But I think we need to recognize that as doctor for adults, it's our big motive to ensure that we make a change in the society we live. We are all fortunate people. We are fortunate because we are here. But I think each one of you can make a change. And I wish that you can make a change. Whether you are a doctor or not, it doesn't matter. For me, the change is very important. And for me, a little bit of tendency to give others is far more important than to take. I am sure each one of you all have come here with a motive. I must congratulate. There are so many people who are winning so many awards. Each one of us must be having something to learn. Now we all come here. I am sure you have heard a lot. We all listen. One of the reasons and one of the wish lists of doctors is, and they will tell you that this patient talks too much. But if we give a good patient hearing to that, it makes a lot of difference. But listening is not important. If you have listened to me, you need to learn something from it. And just learning is not important. If you have learned from me, you need to adapt it into your day-to-day life. And my only objective of coming here today was to support a cause which Brahma started long time back. That whatever you listen and learn, adapt it into your day-to-day lifestyle. So my only wish list as a doctor is that please, whichever sphere of life you are from, and you are much more learned people than I am, as I said, I am a poor daily wage earner, please adopt one patient for life and change his health for life. Thank you very much.
It's always an enriching experience to listen to Dr. Shashank Joshi. Dr. Joshi, you have actually touched upon very contemporary issues in healthcare. Rewriting the medical curriculum, which is adaptable to the current scenario, adhering to the Hippocratic Oath in this era of so many regulatory pressures, a healthy relationship with the industry when actually the medical profession is looked upon with a lot of suspicion, as well as looking upon the industry and medical professions as partners. And of course, the doctors actually to play a lot of important role in the prevention of the diseases. Your thought on adopting a diseased patient actually would hugely impact upon the health as well as the wealth of the nation. One speaker actually mentioned in the day on a shortcoming in the medical profession, and that was the amount of time which a doctor actually spends with the patient, as less as maybe 2 to 3 minutes. And that's really an important point which actually Dr. Shashank Joshi mentioned. Thank you so much, Dr. Shashank Joshi, for your enlightening thoughts. I request Mr. Satya to please offer a token of appreciation to Dr. Shashank Joshi. Yeah, I have been informed that Dr. Sanjeev Kanoria has just arrived, and we go to the last session of the day before we go for the panel discussion. And the last session of the day is on challenges and opportunities in global healthcare, lessons and experiences from India and Europe, Dr. Sanjeev Kanoria. May I request Dr. Kanoria to please come on stage. Dr. Sanjeev Kanoria. Dr. Sanjeev Kanoria is the Vice Chairman, Austrian Anadi Bank, Chairman, Advina Healthcare, and Chairman, Swasth Healthcare India Private Limited. Challenges and opportunities in global healthcare. Over to you.
Thank you, everyone, dear friends. It's a pleasure to be here. Whenever I come to India, I always get an opportunity to speak at some forum or the other. And thank you, Satya, for inviting me. The topic you have given me is quite vast and expansive. So I wouldn't even dream of trying to cover global healthcare in a few minutes. And towards the end of the day, that is not even my intention. What I would like to do is just touch upon some of the fundamentals, which is driving healthcare across the world and some of the challenges we are facing both in the West and in India, and some of my personal experiences, of course. I have been in healthcare since the last 25 years. For me, healthcare was never a profession, it was a vocation, and that's why I went in. And I have seen the numerous challenges which the West has faced in trying to redesign healthcare. Most of my training in healthcare has been in the UK, where I've done my FRCS and PhD in liver transplantation and an MBA from London Business School. My early experience in the UK when I went to train there was that the whole healthcare system was completely dependent upon the National Health Service, which was essentially a free healthcare system. It was highly abused by the people who were getting delivery of care. And over the years, I have seen that the challenge which the UK has faced is increasing costs. When the National Health Service was designed after World War II, no one had thought that robotic surgery would be a reality. No one had thought that liver transplantation could happen. The cost of a liver transplantation to the National Health Service per patient is approximately £200,000, which is quite exorbitant, and this is given to everyone for free. In the UK, we do about 650 liver transplants per year, which is far less than what is done in India nowadays. The other challenges which Europe, particularly UK, has faced is increasing life expectancy. Due to an aging population, there's a lot of pressure on hospital beds. Most of the hospital beds in the UK are occupied by elderly aging people. The other problems that they are facing is an increase in lifestyle-related diseases and chronic problems. So the average healthcare spend in the Western world as a percentage of GDP is close to 10.5%. However, this does not equate to quality. It is seen that in the US, the average healthcare spend is between 12 to 14% of GDP. In the UK, it is 8 to 9%. In Germany and in Netherlands, it is even lower at 7.5% of GDP. However, patient satisfaction is best in the Netherlands and Germany, next in the UK, and then in the US. In US, in spite of such a large healthcare spend, patient satisfaction and the quality which a patient ultimately experiences is far inferior to what is experienced in Germany, Netherlands, and UK. So what is the problem today? Today, the world's population has increased to close to 7 billion, but the number of doctors per thousand in the last decade has remained almost stagnant at 2.5 per thousand across the world. India is amongst the lowest with about 2 per thousand, I'm told, and in America it is the highest with 6 per thousand of the population. Recently, when I was speaking at a forum at London Business School, the question was, some people were asking this question, is India relevant? And to my friends and colleagues who posed this question, they said that look at India today. The GDP growth is only 4%. Inflation is 8%. So real growth in this country is only 4%. Why should we invest in India? And what I had to tell them was, just think about it. If you wind the clock 300 years back, a handful of Britishers went to India. At that time, what was India? A country divided into many kingdoms, a country ruled by many indolent, lazy rulers, a country where people lived in poverty. There was hardly any infrastructure. There were continuous threats of attack from invaders. And what the Britishers did do was help unite the country. And I told them that if you had not committed the atrocities that you did commit later on, when you became more and more arrogant, then you may still have been involved in shaping modern India. So for me, the question was not whether India is relevant. I felt that India was relevant. If you look at some of the fundamentals in Indian economy, 70% of our population is in the rural areas. There's a huge unmet demand in the rural areas. Whatever is produced can be consumed if it is sold at the right price. If we see the youth of the country, 65% of our population is below the age of 65, which is an envy of most Western nations. Our literacy rate has also increased to almost 60% of the population. But then, what are the challenges? Why are we growing at actually receding at a real growth of minus 4%? You know, if you take the GDP growth and subtract the inflation, that gives you the real growth of our country. So we are minus 4%, in fact. So why are we at this particular stage? Because if you think about it, particularly in healthcare, we are spending only 4.2% of our GDP. The number of doctors that we have in this country is only 2 per thousand, which is far less than the Western population. If you look at our hospital beds is only 1 per thousand compared to 3 per thousand in the West. So in healthcare, we are severely lagging behind. And if you look at other areas, our infrastructure has improved a lot. We have got modern roads, modern ports, modern airports, but it is not sufficient for the 1.2 billion population that we have. Our rural areas still do not have the infrastructure that we need. Our rural areas still do not have hospitals.